Hi, BookTube. Welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and today we're not going to be talking about literature, although it was a book, but we're talking about a TV show. I am absolutely obsessed with the TV show Bridgerton. Now, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. I'm not going to read the books, so don't suggest to me to read the books. I'm not interested in the books. I know they're their own thing a lot. As a reader, I should be like, oh, read the books first. And in a lot of cases, I will say that, but in some cases, I don't think there's anything wrong with just wanting to watch the show. Because, not only do they do their own, it's a different thing, but I've heard some stuff about the books that kind of shows that they are a product of their time, as they say, and there's some things in there that I wouldn't really like as much as they do the portrayal of it in the books. In the show. So, in case you've been living under a rock and you have not heard of the Bridgerton series, whether through the books or the show, this is basically a show. It's kind of a Regency story set in the Regency era. And it's about this family, the Bridgerton family. There's 8 kids, and each book is about each of the kids and their romantic relationships, who they end up falling in love with and marrying. And and so far they've had 2 seasons. And now they're going to have, and I hear that they're going to have a 3rd season. They're already set to have a season 3 and season 4, but we don't know if they're going to have season 5, 6, 7, and 8. But I do believe, though, that Shonda Rhimes, who is head producer, wants to do the rest of all the books, but I think she's the head producer. But I believe she does want to do all the Bridgerton siblings and books about them. So, I know a lot of people did not love season 1. And there is this one controversial aspect of season 1 that people have a problem with, but it's also something they have a problem with via the books. And I think I did hear that the show does a little bit better at trying to fix the controversial aspect, I think. Don't take my word for it. But so like I said, so the first season is actually about the oldest girl, Daphne, and she is coming out into society, ready to make her debut before Queen Charlotte. And there's this particular ceremony where the queen will look at all the girls coming out into society, and one of them she will choose to be worthy of being her diamond, will be the special one of the season, the special girl of the season. And Daphne gets chosen to be the special girl. And meanwhile, the Duke of Hastings, Simon has returned because his father has passed away, and he is settling his father's financial affairs with help from his godmother, Lady Danbury, who is queen. Not the literal queen. She's not queen, but she is queen in every other way. She is awesome. If you have not watched the show or have not read the books, and you decide to get into, you'll love Lady Danbury, I can guarantee you. So, anyway, and he has to say he is what would, like, the equivalent of a ladies' man, a player, where he's, in other words, a rake. And he does not have any intentions to marry. In fact, he requests by his godmother, who is hosting the present ball, that he doesn't want to go, because he knows that a bunch of the moms of the young girls in the community will want his attention and want to flaunt their daughters at him, and he's not interested in any of them. And you learn later on in the season that there is a reason that he has decided to live this lifestyle. It's not just he enjoys the pleasures, without the commitment. There is more to it than that. And Daphne and him cross paths at the ball, and at first they don't really take any interest. They don't really approve of each other. They don't have any high opinions of each other. And of course, being her brother Anthony's best friend, I think that kind of gives him a thumbs down on her part. And which, by the way, there's so much to unpack with Anthony. He's just he's something else. And But I will talk to him. Let me first explain the plot. The main romantic plot first, and then I will talk about all the other characters' plots. But then Daphne comes and runs into trouble. And she's not officially, there's a debate if she's going to be officially made the diamond of the season. Like, Queen Charlotte's little, we're not, she's a little, there's someone else that could potentially be a diamond of the season. And it is pointed out by this character of Lady Whistledown, who runs a gossip column and comments on everything. And Queen Charlotte reads this and it kind of influences her a lot of ways. So it becomes Lady Whistledown is a big deal in this community. She's like basically a tabloid reporter. And so then at the next ball, Daphne and Simon cross paths again when a man that her brother tried to fix her up with as a marriage prospect, Burbrook, assaults her. And this is the best part, because when Simon hears them in the garden, he comes to her rescue, but he sees right before he gets there, Daphne knocks the guy out flat with her nice right hook, and that was awesome. That was priceless. I mean, there are so many great moments for the female characters in this. They are not secondary characters. They are not passive. Some of them are more, more into the girly stuff than others, but like the women all shine in this series. Whether it's the older women or the women that you don't like at first, or the young girls who, that it's all the women just shine in the series. Even the little girls, I feel like they deserve a little bit, shine at least a little bit. Even if they won't play as big a role in the series. Until later. But, and Simon decides, you know what, let's make a deal. I want to get these mothers off my back, and you are trying to find a good, suitable husband. And so far, you haven't had much luck, so why don't we pretend to be a couple? Because once you're taken off the marriage mark, you will be more appealing to the men of the society, and the mothers will back off because they'll realize I might be taken after all. And the two start dating, much to Anthony's chagrin, who still wants her to be set with Burbrook. And over time, Simon and Daphne slowly become friends. They actually enjoy each other's company. In fact, Simon makes this beautiful speech to Queen Charlotte about how he sees Daphne as not just wife material, but his best friend, someone who he likes spending time with, enjoys her company, and, it's just a beautiful romantic speech. And it's and it's just, I know a lot of people didn't love season 1, but I thought it was a cute and very saucy season, very steamy season. In fact, it's a lot more steamy, as far, while season 2 is not as steamy, but there's a lot of, or it's steamy, but in a different way. So, season 1 just goes in a really naughty direction, let's put it that way. So let's talk about the other plots of season 1, where we have, like I've said, there's Lady Whistledown and Eloise, who I love her introduction. So we have this introduction where we have Eloise, they're waiting for Daphne to come downstairs. The family's waiting for Daphne to come downstairs. They're anxious. They're like, oh, what's taking her so long? And the other two older Bridgerton boys, Colin and Benedict, try to decide who is gonna go get Daphne to bring her downstairs. But Eloise is the one who decides to summon her downstairs. She yells up to her, Daphne, you must make haste. And do you think she heard me? And that's my terrible impression. But it's such a priceless moment, such a great introduction to her character. It's such an awesome moment, and so charming, and always just such a fun character throughout the whole series. And she's definitely an admirable character. And what's interesting about, and what I like about her arc is that, so this whole time she's kind of mocking her sister, and this is the last thing she wants. She doesn't want to come out to society wear pretty dresses and flaunt herself like a peacock to all the men in society. She wants to be independent. She's a writer. She's a reader. She's fierce and confident. But there's also a moment where she expresses her fears to Daphne about what it would be like to be married to someone and have to bear children. The pressures of that and how scary that can be, because like childbirth is, it can be painful and it's a lot of pressure on, and it's scary, because what if you don't have a love match? And, what if you end up, like, your husband is abusive or cruel or, doesn't love you at all, and you're stuck in this marriage? It's a trap to Eloise. And it's just, you feel for her. Like, she's charming and funny and saucy, but she's also a character that you kind of can relate to her fears. And I don't think it's just, especially because women did not have a lot of power during this time period. And they had to find clever ways to get their power, because they couldn't vote. They didn't have everything, all their money, their dowry and everything belonged to their husbands. There's one plot that is kind of introduced in season 2 that really highlights how women, like, how their money even, will go to, would rather go, instead of going to them, will go to a male relative that they barely know. And I think Jane Austen highlights this in Pride and Prejudice with Mr. Collins. He is a cousin, I think, to the Bennet sisters, and they barely, and their family isn't, and so their family's finances will go to him, and their family's home will go to him, and they kind of highlight that, especially in season 2 of Bridgerton. That struggle of being a woman and realizing that, once you marry, you belong to your husband. Your property belongs to your husband. And if your wife doesn't have, if you don't have any boys, then it will go to the next male heir that's available. They also did deal with that in Downton Abbey as well, where it's early 1900s. So things are still changing. Things are starting to change for women, but we still have that problem of the eldest child, the eldest daughter, she's the oldest in the family, but she still will not get, she has to marry, she still won't get the money, her family's, property, unless she gets married. And it's even worse because they want to keep their family's property in the family, so she ends up having to marry a distant cousin, which turns out okay. What's nice about these period dramas is that a lot of times these stories still end up okay, but the reality of the situation is there's no guarantee it will be okay for women at this time. Like, there's no guarantee they'll marry a good guy that they'll fall in love with. But I think that's one of the appeals of these period dramas, is that, that it make it look like they could have had a happy ending. They can be with someone that they love. So basically Eloise's plot is that her struggles with that, and also trying to figure out who Lady Whistledown, because she becomes a huge fangirl of this woman. But she also has very mixed opinions, because she still is a tabloid reporter that really exposes everybody. It makes calls on everybody on their BS. And then you have Penelope, who is pining after Colin Bridgerton. She's totally in love with him, and he just sees her as a friend. She's Eloise's best friend, so she's kind of a wallflower, overshadowed by her sisters, her twin sisters, and who, to me, come off as a little ditzy. And Eloise has such a strong personality, and then Colin doesn't see her as anything but a friend. And then it turns out her cousin, a cousin of her father's, Marina, comes in, and she's lived on a farm. I believe that's what they said. And she's a different kind of beauty to them. She's new and shiny and different. And Colin is immediately taken with her. And of course, Colin being Colin, he rescues her. He's sweet and is always rescuing young girls and flirts with them, but he is so oblivious and is so frustrating. I don't know who's more frustrating, him or Anthony Bridgerton. They're both equally frustrating, but for different reasons. Maybe Anthony might be a little bit more frustrating. I don't know. And he is taken by Marina, and Marina it turns out she is pregnant and had sex with a man that she thought she loved out of wedlock, but he's now on the battlefield. He's a soldier, and she hasn't heard from him in a while. And Lady Featherton is like, "You're pregnant, so now we need to get you married off." And you do not. At first, I feel like you don't like Lady Featherton. You kind of understand her, but you also hate her at the same time. And she's very mean and gets very frustrating, critical of her daughters, especially Penelope. And she even tries to point out to Marina that if she doesn't marry someone, that she could be living on the street. And she's actually the person who kind of becomes a little bit of a competition for the diamond role, because she's different, and she's actually somewhat pretty. I mean, she's very beautiful. She's pretty, and she's got the attention of all the guys in the community because she's something different. She's different. She's someone they've never seen before. And Penelope is kind of struggling because she realizes she has these feelings for Colin, but he's, again, oblivious to her. And I love Colin, but although I love Benedict more than Colin. Because at first I didn't know how I felt about Colin when I started watching the show, but now I love Colin. I'm just very frustrated with him, and I don't like his obliviousness, and how he can be a little insensitive to Penelope. I think a lot of people are divided on the Penelope and Colin story, because you either, we find out something about Penelope that makes us be a little not happy with her. But Colin, so you're either Team Penelope or Team Colin, You're like, he deserves better, or she deserves better. I think, they just need to both get their act together and mature. So, I'm one of those people, at first I wanted them to be the plot for season 3, but then, because there is a possibility that they might skip ahead. But you know what, I feel like they need to just give Colin and Penelope some time to mature and develop, and really give Colin a reason to realize that she is more to him than just his friend. Maybe even, which it seems like this is what needs to happen for these guys to get a clue, is that he needs to maybe realize he could lose her forever. I think maybe that could get him to wake up and realize, okay, you are in love with this woman. So anyway, so we have, so I think that's all the main plots of the season. Well, except for Penelope's plot, where you kind of learn some stuff about, Penelope by the end of the season. So, and I'm just gonna say, and I'll put, I'll put spoilers on the description box if you have not watched the show, or read the books for that matter. But Penelope it is revealed by the end of the season that Penelope is Lady Whistledown, so she is someone who has been secretly standing up for herself in a different way that's probably not the best way. And I think that's why, like I said, people are divided, because, what Penelope is doing is, you kind of understand it, You kind of understand that this is the only way she knows how to take, kind of get back at the people who have bullied her and have ignored her. But it's not a nice way to do it. It's a bit of a manipulative and mean-spirited way to do it. It's not right. So I think a lot of people aren't sure how they feel about Penelope, and that they would rather her, they think Colin deserves better, because Colin is a true cinnamon roll. He's just oblivious most of the time. But then I think there are a lot of people such as myself who also see Colin as some, it's a little Colin, how do you not see it? This girl is right in front of you, smack in your face, and you still can't see how great she is for you, and how sweet and loyal she is. She puts the damn boy on a pedestal. So I would like to see season 3 either potentially maybe someone else comes into our life, and maybe also see her kind of develop as the Lady Whistledown story a little bit more. Like, really, dive into this alternate identity of hers. Maybe because the way season 2 ends, you can see has such rage and is so frustrated and heartbroken by how things turn out for her by the end of season 2, where she is. And so I would like to see season 3 where she's just really comes into her own, becomes stronger, but maybe more mean to people, even more mean, without not being apologetic about it. And maybe just let her go through this so that she maybe hits rock bottom. I mean, you could say she's hit rock bottom now, but maybe see her hit rock bottom again or something. Just see her really just take people down. And that's what I want to see season 3. Just see her grow and maybe have this period where she really sinks really low as Lady Whistledown. I think that would be really interesting. Okay, so we have my favorite season. Well, first, let me say this about season... Okay, well, first, before I get to season 2, let me just... Since I already spoiled the Lady Whistledown thing, let me just talk about... So, you find out later that Simon, his reasons for not wanting to commit and get married is because he said... Well, at first he says he can't have children, but then Daphne learns the hard way that he doesn't want to have children because he made a dumbass vow. When I say dumbass, I don't mean I don't get it. Because his father treated him like shit. Was bullying him constantly. I understand. He's an emotional wreck. He's angry and full of rage. And he just wants to punish his father. And if I were in his place, I would so want to punish that old man too. So he's like, vows, I'm never going to give you an heir. So you can understand, even though I call it a dumbass decision, a dumbass vow, I get it. I do get it. So you don't need to tell me why, because I understand. I know why. And I get his anger and frustration, and I would probably make a dumb decision too if I were in his place. And you feel so bad for him, and you kind of understand by the end of the season. You understand through Daphne why he feels the way he feels. It's not just pride, but it's also hurt. He's in pain because he was never good enough for his father because he had a stutter growing up. His father just was such an ass to him, and he was never good enough for his father. And the only person, because his mother died giving birth to him, and his father didn't even care. He was just happy he had a son. And the only person who loved him was his godmother, Lady Danbury, who at first I thought she was the aunt to it. She was the sister to his mother, but she refers to the mom in the flashback as my dearest friend. So she is not his aunt, but she is his godmother. And she's the only person who helps him out. She doesn't pity him, she doesn't coddle him, but she helps him to be strong and confident and takes care of him and teaches him, helps him become the man he is as an adult. And you just love her for it. Another reason why she is queen. She is awesome. And it's just like, you just want to be like, thank God for Lady Danbury. And she's like, and what's funny is someone made a comment on a YouTube video because I've been obsessed, all I can really do to sate my obsession is to watch videos. Because she is so, she is kind of like a mom to him. And someone made this comment on a YouTube video where they were like, he was worried about all the other moms, but he forgot about the one mom that his own adopted mother. Because she's like, when he first gets there, he's like, says, I'm not interested in going to this ball or anything, just, I have requested that you don't force me to go, and she's like, your request has been denied. And it's just, and he's like, okay, I guess I'm going. And I just loved how she just says one word and he can't object. and which I'm assuming started right when he was a kid, where because of course as an adult he could still say no to her, but she probably would keep bugging him until he said yes. Or at least even if she didn't bug him and he got away with it, she would still be very disappointed in him and very frustrated, and make him go to the next one. And so she is awesome. And she's the only person who ever showed him love and was there for him. And but despite that he had love from her, he still feels like he doesn't, you realize through Daphne, like I said, through Daphne, that he feels like he doesn't deserve love. He feels like he wouldn't be a good parent. And it's just so heart-wrenching. You just want to give him, and you want to shake him and be like, Simon, you would be a great dad. Just because your dad was an ass doesn't mean you have to be your dad. And I get you're wanting to punish him. And it's just, there was another, I was reading, a month ago, I was reading, House of Mirth by Edith Wharton, and I watched Olive from Book Olive's video discussion on the main character in that book. And she was also someone who struggled to please her mother, just as Simon struggled to please his father. And even though her mom is dead in the story, Olive discusses how she still wants to please her mother and live up to her mother's expectations. And it's kind of the same thing where Simon still is fighting for the approval of his father in society. Like, he's still living with that, of the fact that he was never good enough. And his father never approved of him. He was never satisfied with him. And that still haunts him to this day. And just so heartbreaking, and so you'll kind of understand his determination to keep his vow, his pride about it. And unfortunately, because Daphne is so frustrated and hurt by this, she does something really mean and cruel to him. But you can, again, you can kind of understand. It was just a bad choice on her part. It's like, why did you do that? You just ruined your own, why did you cross that line? And it's just such a heartbreaking moment, the last 2 episodes between the two of them, because it's only 8 episodes per season, which I think is kind of, I wish there were 10, but 8 episodes works for me too. And of course, it's a romance, so, it's gonna end, everything's gonna work out, everything's gonna be happy, and it's just how they get there, how they get to happiness. Now let's talk Anthony in season 1, because he plays he's the lead in season 2. So first we gotta talk about him in season 1. That boy is so dysfunctional, and if they had therapy in the Regency period, he would need it. You learn in season 2 that he experienced this horrible trauma of watching his father die, and it has affected him ever since, especially because he's the oldest, and he became entirely responsible for his family. He was forced to make their decisions for his family. And you get a flashback, something happens to your mother in season 2, where he has to make these difficult decisions, but because his mom still sees him as her little boy and is grieving herself, she is angry and frustrated. Like, he can't make these decisions. And you get a whole flashback of that, and it's just, you see how complicated the relationship between Violet and her son is, how toxic, how complicated it becomes as through that flashback. But we will talk more about that in a minute. Let's continue talking about season 1. So in season 1, he he's a bit of a rake himself. But he is particularly he's with one particular woman, this opera singer, named Sienna, and you can tell they do really like each other, maybe even have strong feelings. And I don't know about love, but the feelings are there. And they're constantly there, like she's an on and off again girlfriend, but then he ends up breaking up with her. He had made this promise, which is like, Anthony, why did you do that? Because at the end of it's like, why did you do that? But he makes this promise to her that he will take care of her. But then it turns out, he finds out later, after, he realizes later, and I think it is due to a conversation between him and his mother, that he can't really commit himself to Sienna, because she's of a lower class. She's an opera singer. So I think in that time period, if you're part of the theater, you're looked down on, which is so shocking considering how obsessed we are with actors, including myself. It's funny how we worship those people that perform, that create art, that are artists, but in this time period, they were looked down on. In fact, so he knows that she wouldn't fit in his world, so he dumps her, but then he just they can't get away from each other. And they end up running into each other again and try to be together again. And there's even a moment when he catches Daphne and Simon in a compromising position where they are a little intimate, and they haven't agreed to get married yet. They're not on the road to marriage yet. And of course, if that happens and you're caught in an intimate moment with someone before you get married, then it's like, now you dishonored her. The guy has dishonored the girl, so now he has to marry her. And that's the only way he can return the honor, and of course Simon, because of his personal issues and his vow, which he has not told Daphne or Anthony about, they agree to a duel, which, in my personal opinion, I think duels are a waste of time and stupid, because someone could actually die. Like, I understand when to punch someone in the face and get into a fist fight, but a duel means you're going to kill the person. The person is dead, permanently dead and gone. If you believe in heaven, they're gone to heaven. So, to me, that's not a way to solve the problem. That is permanent. Can you live with the fact that you murdered someone? Because that's what you are doing. And it's just, I never understood the concept of duels. I think it's stupid that is the reason how people resolve something. And will, like, you have to answer to the dishonor you made, so I'm going to kill you. And I'm going to kill you. It's like, to me, it's like, ridiculous. Maybe a guy can explain the logic of a duel to me. I don't, or maybe, but it's, to me, duels are ridiculous. Although nothing is, as far as watching a guy fight, like, with swords, that's kind of, that's another story. That's, seen that kind of scene in a movie or a TV show. So then there's actually this duel between them, and Daphne has to stop it, intends to stop this duel, and I hate when I get into discussing something and I forget why I brought it up in the first place. Okay, so there's, and, I always do this. I go off on a sub-tangent, and then I forget why I went off on that sub-tangent. But they agree to get married. Oh, I remember. So when Anthony is, like, gonna fight with Simon, and he might die, he goes to visit Sienna. And he tells her what's going to happen. Because at first she's not as receptive to his advances and doesn't want to, do anything, because he's going to probably break his promise again. And he tells her he might die, or if he doesn't die, they could run away together, because he would have to leave anyway if he kills Simon. And they have a night together. And even ask Benedict, who is my favorite of the brothers. I think he's everybody's favorite, essentially. He's the least frustrating of those three, anyway. Because, I feel like we don't know the baby Bridgertons as well as the older ones. And so Benedict's the least frustrating. And Anthony realized that he might die. He tells him, okay, you gotta take care of this girl. Because clearly he really does care about Sienna. And wants her to be well taken care of. And he asks Benedict to go do that if Simon kills him, if he doesn't survive. And it's actually kind of sweet, and I did feel bad for her. But of course it doesn't work out for the two of them, which is good, because these are my favorite couple to come into being. We have season 2 is Anthony season. He has broken up with Sienna. Sienna is the one that breaks up with him, because she realizes that he wants her to become something that she isn't. He wants her to not stay true to who she is, because she knows his society will not accept her. And he knows that as the eldest in his family, he can't be with someone that is not acceptable to society, that is of a lower class. And so she walks away. She's like, you need to let me go. And kind of proves that she cares about him too, because I think you could argue that she was, like, trying to help him out, knowing that no matter what, society will never accept them as a couple. And he might have to be pressured to get married. So, and I don't know how she would feel about being a mistress to him, because that's what she might have to become. She wouldn't be a suitable wife. And this is kind of the first glimpse of realizing that Anthony has a habit of putting up walls, I think. Because he tries to act like he's not hurt by this. And I think this is the first domino that makes him even more determined to not fall in love. Like, there was first what happened to his father and how his mother lost his father, which you find out how that happened in season 2, and how he just can't, he's so afraid to fall in love because of that could happen. Your loved one could die, and you could lose them forever, and to live with that pain will be too much for him, too unbearable for him, and he also doesn't want to do that to someone else. That's what he tells his mom. And so he decides to focus more with his head when thinking about a wife. And so the season 2 is all about Anthony finding a wife. And we are introduced to the delightful, charming Sharma sisters, who in this TV show, I believe that what is kind of what, and I don't want to get too much into this, but I will say this, that what's nice about the TV show is the TV show is very diverse with the characters. And there's a lot of so I think a lot of fans appreciate this, but because the show is all about having fun and just this, escapism, the show, except for what happened, they try to discuss a little bit in season 1, but then I think people were like, this show is about escapism. We don't want them to delve into that kind of stuff. So what's nice is that the Sharma sisters, who are girls that are from India, originally from Bombay, and I think their mom is white, actually, and I'm not sure on that. But their mom married beneath her. She married a clerk, and Kate, the oldest, was born. So she, Lady Mary Sheffield, adopted Kate as her own, and then I think they have Edwina. So I think Kate's father is Edwina's father also. And then I believe at some point we don't know when, but he did die. And Mary decides to bring her daughters back to England to come out of society. But you learn later on that Kate was in contact with her grandparents, and there was a deal made that Kate and Mary would find an Englishman for their daughter Edwina to marry, and she would get the Sheffield money, their money. And so it's kind of a, like, it was Lady Geneva, I don't know if I'm saying it right, she's a YouTuber who did her own review of the show, and she talks about how it's kind of, you can compare it to 10 Things I Hate About You / the Taming of the Shrew, where with Kate being a character that is kind of, she's intimidating, and she's very clever and very smart and witty, and is not easily impressed and charmed by people, they have to get her approval to marry Edwina. And Edwina is so sweet and beautiful and also charming, but just a good endearing young woman that would make a suitable wife. And so she ends up being named the Diamond of the Season by Queen Charlotte, with encouragement from the Sharma sponsor, Lady Danbury. She is named the Diamond, Edwina is, and Anthony decides, because after going through a bunch of interacting with a bunch of women in their town, he decides to marry the Diamond of the Season. He decides that would be perfect to marry the Diamond of the Season, and Edwina is made the Diamond. But unfortunately, he does not make the best impression on Kate. And oh my god, their first meeting is just the best meet cute ever. Because the first time they meet is when she's riding on horseback. And she, of course, as a young unmarried woman, that can't be. She can't be doing that. He meets her, chases her down, and they kind of flirt with each other a little bit. And it's just so charming. It's their first meeting. It's just so cute. And they flirt and they snipe at each other. The starting of their tense relationship. They're constantly butting heads and arguing and disagreeing with each other. And him trying to tell her what to do, giving her suggestions on what he thinks she should do. And her like being like, no, you can't tell me what to do. I'm not gonna let you tell me what to do. You're not the boss of me. And it turns out that, and she realizes who he is, and realizes that he's the most eligible bachelor in this community at the moment. And she immediately does not like him. And I forgot, it gets worse because before, she ends up eavesdropping when she ends up eavesdropping on a conversation of his where he's talking to his buddies, and he admits that he's not looking for a love match, and he has a list of what he wants in a wife. And Kate overhears that and does not approve of that. She thinks he treats women like they're cattle to be auctioned off. And he ends up overhearing her spying on him, and she basically calls him out, and you just love when she roasts him, when she calls him out. Like, she says, oh, are you trying to decide if my wit is worthy of you, and stuff like, my wit is acceptable, and my manner is genteel. And he, of course, realizes, oh, crap, you weren't supposed to hear that. And she's like, your character is just as deficient as your horsemanship. She totally calls him out, and he's just speechless as she walks away. He does not know what to say to that, and it's just hilarious, and it's the best. And so the whole season is them constantly butting heads because Edwina meets him, and he's very charming and says the right things to woo her, and she likes him a lot, and he even gets her a horse as a gift. And Kate cannot stand that because she thinks he is horrible and doesn't want something to do. But the problem is that he is an eligible bachelor, and if Edwina married him, then she would be a viscountess. And the Bridgertons are a very wealthy family, so it's like if she married him, that would be really good for her. And of course, marriage was more of a economic economic thing, like an economic necessity. It was never about love, or for a lot of people, it's not about love. Sometimes people just get married because they need a wealthy husband. That's and they deal with that in Pride and Prejudice too. Like, Miss Bennet has to get all of her daughters married so they'll be financially secure. And maybe one of them has to marry Mr. Collins so they can keep their family estate in their hands. But anyway, so back to Bridgerton. And just this whole season is basically about the two of them butting heads and her constantly roasting him. And occasionally he gets one in here or there. But most of the time it's basically her roasting him. For at least the first half of the season. And, like, then the fun starts. It gets even more fun because then they have moments where they start to realize they are attracted to each other. They like each other as more than just someone to disagree with. It's slowly built. It's a slow burn romance. It is priceless in there. And you can tell that despite the fact that she's constantly roasting him, you can tell that Anthony's actually really into it. He likes it. And my belief is that he's so used to the women in this community and how, like, they're always throwing themselves at him because he's a viscount. And he's good looking. And he's charming. And other stuff. And you can see these women, see in the beginning scene where he's encountering all these women, they're just listing off all their accomplishments to him, and he is so bored with them. While Kane comes along and just challenges, constantly roast him, calls him and ends up has a similar temperament to his. And she's also someone who's she loves horses. Loves horses. There's this adorable scene where they go to the racetrack, and he tries to get himself invited to go escort Edwina to it. And of course, Kate, who does not like him, is like, nope, she's already got a date. And he sends, and he shows up. He shows up anyway. The guy, the guy who is the escort, who he finds an excuse to get him out of the way temporarily. And he says he personally crawls into the seat next to Edwina, between Edwina and Kate, and starts talking to her and talking to Edwina. And I believe she asked him about which horse he picked, and he says which horse he picked, and then it turns out, and basically Kate is like, oh, please, you only picked the horse that everyone else did. Your horse is not going to win. And she proceeds to list all the reasons why his horse, which make sense. Her arguments make perfect sense. And he's, of course, like, oh, no, you think too much about it. And she's like, well, you think too little about it. And then she ends up being right. That the horse that she said would win, she was right. For the very reasons that she said. And she took such pleasure and joy in that moment of beating him, of outsmarting him. And their relationship is all about them constantly trying to outdo the other. And it's just so cute. I mean, they're both so competitive with each other and so ruthless, and it's just adorable. And then, as you can tell, season 2 is my favorite. Like, I love season 1. I like season 1 more so than most people do. But I'm like everybody in the sense season 2 is the best, in my opinion. And I could talk about it all day, especially Kate and Anthony. So the whole season is all about them just, like I said, butting heads. And you can just see him slowly falling for her and being totally into it. Because like I said, he's so used to the women in this community falling on themselves and listing their accomplishments. And like, while Kate is this new person, like, she's just his perfect woman, his perfect wife, and he's like trying so hard to not fall in love because he doesn't want to fall in love because he's so afraid to fall in love with someone, and what will happen if one of them gets hurt. He puts up all these walls, and it's just, and meanwhile the audience is just like, come on, you guys are into each other, just kiss already. And it makes it even more better because this is a time period where medical men could not do anything. I mean, they probably did do plenty, but they just they were restricted and repressed. And it makes it all the more attractive and hot when it finally does happen. And so what is just great that the two of them slowly eventually start to realize their feelings, particularly when the Sharmas get invited to their country estate, the Bridgerton's country estate, and there's this whole scene where that they're outside walking, and they're trying to talk because, the night before there was a moment where they expected Anthony to propose to Edwina, and he doesn't. He hesitates. So she's kind of giving him a hard time about that, yelling at him for, toying with her sister's emotions. And then you see this moment, which this episode starts with a flashback. We find out how Edmund Bridgerton died. And you find out that he got stung by a bee, and obviously he was allergic to a bee. And at the time, they didn't know what to do. They didn't understand what was going on. And it really, like I said, it really traumatizes Anthony. And so he sees when Kate is yelling at him, a bee ends up on her breast, like right around here, and he freaks out and has a panic attack. And he's just like, oh my god, can you breathe? And what are you okay? And she doesn't understand at first because she's like, it's just a bee. Because for most people, a bee sting will just hurt for like a second probably, and then that's it. It's not that big of a deal. But of course for him, that's how his father died. So he is, like I said, he is having a panic attack. And someone on YouTube, in a YouTube comment, one of the Bridgerton videos, or particularly the Kate and Anthony videos, someone pointed out that what was great is that Kate is so good. It's like she reacted like how she would treat an animal that was panicking. She calmed him down and eased his fear. And, she was able to soothe him. And she puts his hand over her heart so that he will be assured that she is perfectly fine. And they have a moment where they look into each other's eyes for a second. He's like, he's not exactly himself. And then, of course, later in the next episode, they go on hunting. Edwina, who is once Kate and Anthony to get along, makes the suggestion that Kate accompany him and his brothers and the other guys, his brother and all the other guys, on a hunting trip. And of course, at the time, and he scoffs at that. It was so hilarious because he just scoffs at the idea of a woman going hunting, and he doesn't believe it when Edwina says that Kate is an excellent shot. He thinks, oh, you might be good at target practice, but there's no way you can actually hunt down an animal. And of course, Benedict is taking such enjoyment at watching Kate call Anthony out on his BS, and Anthony's just trying to defend his argument and how he just looks really stupid. And he ends up is forced to, come with, let her come. And she decides to go for her own thing because she knows a little bit more, it seems, about hunting than he does. And she goes off by herself and he follows after her. And of course there's a moment when she's wearing this awesome dress pantsuit kind of ensemble with a cute little top hat. And there's a moment when she is stepping over a log and shows she's wearing knee-high socks and shows a little bit of skin, and he's just befuddled by that, seeing her leg. And he doesn't know how to respond to that. It was such a funny moment. So they're talking, he finds her and they're hiding. She's trying to shush him, but then of course they end up arguing and really loudly. And he brings up what happened the other day and the other morning, and she's and they just have this awkward moment that is so tense, and it's he's and then a few seconds later she's getting ready to take her shot, and he decides, no, you're not holding the gun right. And of course, her being her, she's I am holding it perfectly fine. And he does that thing that guys do when they're let me show you how to do it. I'm gonna put my arms around you. It's and it's just so, it's the first time he gets her scent. He gets the smell of her, the scent of her. He inhales it, and it's just such a delicious moment. The tension, and just slowly throughout the whole series up until the end, you can just see it, the desire and the tension building between them, and it makes it all the more priceless and just wonderful as the season progresses. And I just love, and then there are so many near kiss moments between them, and that, he says some things that are just says some great lines where it says some great lines to her to seduce, do you something along the lines of, do you know how many ways it is to seduce, do you know how many ways there are to seduce a woman, or you are the bane of my existence and the object of all my desires. And just, there are so many great lines that you can see how seduced she is by him, how, she wants to be with him, but she's also trying to keep herself under control because she wants her sister taken care of, and wants, and accepting the fact that this is her sister's best option at the moment, and that's what the Viscount is who she wants. And Edwina thinks she's in love with him. She thinks she loves him, and it's just, he's not his true self around her. He's only his true self around Kate. And it just makes the ending when they finally get together, because like I said, this is romance, so you can guess how it's going to end, all the more sweet and beautiful. And it's just so many moments. I've watched so many videos with the two of them. So then the other plots of this season, of season 2, are, we have the Featherington plot, which I kind of addressed a little bit ago, where at the end of season 1, Lord Featherington has died, and he has a cousin who is currently in America, returns to England, and becomes the new Lord Featherington because he's male. And at first, Portia, Lady Featherington, tries to fix up one of her daughters with him, and that doesn't work because her daughter is just not good at that kind of stuff. And she decides to, pretend to be interested in him herself, and try to seduce him herself, and makes a deal with him, like they become, form a partnership. And they get some, as a lot of, quite a bit of scheme, a bit of a scandal, a scheme to make money. And then and I feel like a lot of people did not like that plot, because they felt like they were so into Kate and Anthony that they didn't really care. I think a lot of people do not care about the Featherington plot, but I thought it was okay. I thought it was a good, like I said, it highlighted the struggles of women in the Regency era, and how women, if you don't have any sons, if a woman does not have a boy, then whoever the next male relative will get the family's finances, or like one of the daughters has to get married sooner rather than later. And if they're not, so it's a real, it highlights the struggles. But I can understand why people were like, I don't care about that plot. Give me Kate and Anthony more. And then we have the other plot is that Eloise is trying to continue with her on and off again, fascination with Lady Whistledown, and the Queen has asked her to investigate the woman, but she's not doing a very good job at it. And I think that was more part of season 1, was the Queen asking Eloise to investigate Lady Whistledown, find out about her. Sorry, I've been talking so much that my throat has become scratchy. So, like, Eloise kind of has mixed feelings about Lady Whistledown. And this whole time she does not realize, because like I said, we find out at the end of season 1 that Penelope's Lady Whistledown. And so Penelope's trying to hide that and find another way to keep her business going. She, in fact, involves the Madame Delacroix, who's the local seamstress that everybody uses all the time, the dressmaker. And Eloise, what is really interesting is that she kind of crosses paths with this young man who writes a lot about social issues, especially women's rights. And she gets a lot involved in that. And I think a lot of people want to see more of that with Eloise, and I do too. I definitely want to see, before she has her romance, get her kind of involved with the politics and to get rights for women, like that kind of, and see her gain a life outside of marriage would be like kind of nice to see with her character before we end up with her love interest. And it kind of, hers and Penelope's relationship, their bond with each other, kind of this whole her being Lady Whistledown without Eloise knowing, kind of rocks the boat a little bit. Their relationship's on rocky ground right now. And like I said, Eloise was so obsessed with Lady Whistledown, particularly in season 1. And Penelope was like, I don't want to hear about this anymore. I don't want to hear about your obsession. I'm tired of it. And on top of that, Penelope does want to get married. She wants to marry particularly Colin. And actually what is a really cute little storyline is introduced in season 1 is that with the whole Marina situation, Penelope tells Eloise about it without telling her it's Marina. And she's like, oh, it's a servant. And like I said, they can't even and the thing is, what's funny is because in the Regency period they don't believe in telling their daughters before they get married. Weren't having the sex talk with them like a lot of mothers do nowadays. So Eloise and Penelope can't even fathom the possibility that Marina's pregnant without getting married. In fact, like Eloise, there's a really funny scene where she asks to the room, she asks, how does a woman come to be with a child? And of course, Lady Vana's like, oh no, we can't talk about this. Especially not in front of not in front of Daphne, who's, getting married, so she's like, and of course, Benedict and particularly Colin make these snarky little comments, and like one of the best lines that, first of all, Benedict's like, don't look at me, I don't know anything, and then of course Colin is like, have you ever been to a farm? And then he makes another favorite line is, we're going to get out our sticks. And Violet's reaction to that is hilarious. And like, it's such one of the great scenes of that season. But yeah, I just thought that was funny that they, especially because they don't know how it works, because mothers are trying to protect shelter their daughters, and be like, you can't know about this until you get married. So of course, like, Penelope, like I said, she wants that. She wants to get married, particularly to Colin, and have his children and everything. And Eloise, she does not care about that. And like I said, I also believe she's a little scared of the idea too. And so Penelope is dealing with the fact that that's what she wants. She wants that kind of stuff that Eloise is constantly criticizing. And but yeah, this whole her secretly being Lady Whistledown and Eloise's obsession wanting and going into a territory that she should not go into, that she should not associate, really rocks their friendship a little bit. And they don't end the season in a good place. It's really sad, actually. And then we have Colin, and Colin has a bit of a story arc because he, at the end of season 1, he leaves for Greece to go, he's trying to find himself. And after Marina pursued him because she figures if she marries him that he could pretend to be the father of her child and rescue her, because that's how he does. He rescues these damsels in distress. And of course, it is found Lady Whistledown calls it out in her gossip column of what happened, and so that's how he finds out about it. And he decides not to get married and is really hurt by this, by her lie, and even says to her right before he leaves, says that if you had just told me, I would have helped you. So he walks away, but he kind of misses her and feels bad about the way things ended. So in season 2, he decides to go see her and talk to her about it, because he's still kind of trying to find himself. And what is really great, another moment where a woman of the show really shines, is when Marina puts him in his place. And because he expresses how can she be happy and content with her situation, because she doesn't even love the guy that, because he's the brother of the guy she truly loves, and like, how can she be happy? And she tells him, it's like, well, I'm content with my life, and sometimes you have to settle for contentment. You're not going to always get the fairy tale. And she tells him that reminds him that how lucky he is, how fortunate he is. He was born a Bridgerton, so he's got status, and it'll be easier for him to find someone and get married, and it'll probably be easier for him to find a love match. And he has a lot of people in his life that care about him, his family and friends. And she mentions Penelope, which I love, because, especially because in season 1, she was kind of mean to Penelope. Like, Penelope tried to be her friend. And she kind of, when she realized that Penelope was in love with Colin, she was like, oh, it all makes sense now. And it's like, well, too bad, because he's never going to see you that way. He's never going to love you. I'm more mature than you. I'm more experienced. So it's better if I'm better off at marrying him. it kind of hurts her. And I think that's probably why she did, she does what she does with the exposing her as Lady Whistledown, exposing Marina in her column. I think she did that out of anger and irrational and being irrational and emotional. I think that's why she did that. But what was nice is that I think Marina makes up for it later by telling Colin that he has Penelope. And I think he slowly, over time, let's hope he's starting to realize that. And at first I wanted the Penelope and Colin thing to happen and to be the next season. But then, thinking out, watching interviews, and forgive me, I don't remember if I'm pronouncing her channel name correctly, Lady Geneva, and how she basically made a good point on why maybe we need to wait on Colin and Penelope, because the two of them have a lot of maturing to do, and a lot of growing up to do. It's going to take a while before Colin realizes that Penelope has been right there this whole time. And I think the whole, her being Lady Whistledown and all the mean-spirited stuff she's done is going to get between them. And I think she also needs to work on her, heal her relationship with Eloise first, before she thinks about marriage. So I think hopefully in season 3, that will be the arc of season 3, Penelope, where she goes with Lady Whistledown, and maybe healing her relationship with Eloise, but also kind of seeing Eloise go her own way too. And find her own place in the world, and find out what she wants out of life. And then, bring them back together somehow. And then, unfortunately, the good news is these, even though it's only 8 episodes, they're really long episodes, and there's no commercials. So it could still work. We could still get the fair amount. Although people still get a little disappointed with the episodes. But, oftentimes, but I think that although with this show, the episodes are an hour long. There are some shows, like those Marvel shows that they've been making, are often only, they're sitcom length, I think. It could be, yeah, I think so. I don't think they're as long. And so I feel like there's a lot of stuff they gotta do in season 3 before they, do the Colin and Penelope storyline. So first, the Benedict storyline, which is in the books, that's his storyline is next anyway. So I think the people that read the books that want Benedict to be next are right, not just because in the books he is the next storyline, but just because I think it would make more sense to have his storyline. And he has a great story arc too in season 2, because he is he wants to be an artist. And I want to say in season 1, he meets this gentleman who's an artist, a famous artist, and he has a very powerful influence on Benedict, and he kind of encourages him, become kind of a temporary mentor to him. And it kind of breaks my heart that we don't get to see that relationship anymore in season 2. Because I really like that relationship. Not in the way that a lot of people are seeing that relationship, but in the friendship kind of way. In a mentor-mentee kind of relationship. But they end up crossing, he's not in season 2. He's only in season 1. And he encourages Benedict to go to art school. So in season 2, Benedict applies to art school. And he wants to be an artist. But like a lot of people that are in that kind of profession, he has a lot of self-doubt. And doesn't think he's good enough. And is constantly trashing, saying his work is not good. And constantly complaining. And, and he and Eloise have such a great relationship. And they're very supportive of each other and each other's works and beliefs. And it's just, and you see him really struggle with that. And his self-doubt. Not his relationship with Eloise. Not his bond as, but wanting to create art, but also very, self-doubt and feeling very insecure and not sure if he's good enough. But he ends up getting in, and he's just so happy about that he actually gets into the school. And his whole arc is him going to the school and, trying to become an artist. And he's so proud of himself. But then, by the closer to the end, he finds out that Anthony trying to be helpful, pays his way to get in. And all of a sudden, he is back to having self-doubt because he feels like the only reason that he got in is because his big brother, helped him out. And it really is hard for him because he doesn't know if he got in the school just because of his brother's money, his family money, or if the school thought he was actually good. You never know. Now, of course, us watching him, we know he's good. But, we're always harder on ourselves. And the fact that his brother paid to get him in, he will never know if they really thought he was good or if it was just because his brother got him in there. Now, funny enough, though, despite that, Anthony does learn from his mistakes, as he did in season 1, that not to be making his sister's decisions for her. He also learns in season 1 that he can't control his family. He can't bribe people into, he can't use their money to give his family what they deserve, what he believes they deserve. And he learns that, Anthony learns that, but at the same time, he doesn't, it was too late, Benedict found out. And even though he has learned from his mistake, it still hurt Benedict. And I do know now, and so that's his story arc of the season, his wanting to be an artist. And then, like I said, I believe his story should be the next one in the series. It should be what season 3 is about. And it's going to be so great to see his story, especially because, first of all, I've heard that he has a Cinderella type of romance with this girl. And also, the fact that he's everybody's favorite. He's the favorite brother in the family. He's the funniest brother, I think. He's purposely funny. And he's also the one that's probably the most sensitive and stable. Like, not sensitive in a way that you could easily hurt it. Not sensitive in the way that Anthony is, but in the fact that, he's an artist. And he's also a poet. And, he has the heart of a poet. And, in fact, there's a scene where Anthony wants to perform poetry for Edwina to impress her. So he's trying to get Benedict to teach him poetry. And, he scoffs at Benedict's talk on his talking about poetry. And and he says some things to Anthony that Anthony is like, can you say that again? Let me write that down. And he tries to use that. But what's great about Anthony, what was nice in that scene is that afterwards Anthony realized, and, especially after looking at Kate's reaction, he's like, I'm not going to do this. He's kind of, he's a little bit more honest in that too, Edwina, in that scene. Where he's like, I'm not a poet, I'm not romantic, but I can give you, security and happiness and contentment. I can give you a great life if you just give me a chance. And the way he says it does win Edwina over. Now, I probably shouldn't talk about Edwina's arc right after I talk about Kate and Anthony, because her arc is obviously tied to theirs. And her arc is great too, because she grows up a lot by the end of the season, and you feel so bad for her because she's so naive and oblivious to what is going on behind the scenes between her sister and Anthony, the guy she wants to marry. And like I said, I firmly believe that I think she was just caught up in what Anthony pretended to offer her, what the illusion, the fantasy, the rose, she looked at it was rose-colored glasses, because he was charming, and he gave her gifts, and he seemed like such a romantic, nice guy and everything. He was a viscount, and it's just the dream of it all is what she wanted, and she didn't realize that Anthony was not giving her his real self. He was just putting on a performance. And again, the only time he was his real self was in front of Kate. And there's so many funny moments where she's talking. Daphne's trying to feel her out because she has suspicions about the situation. She thinks he's more into Kate, and she's trying to get to know Edwina better because it looks like right now that it's going to be Edwina. Anthony's going to get married, and maybe and I think she kind of is hoping that maybe she's wrong, and that Edwina will be a good, a good wife, and that he could love her and everything. And it's really funny because like they're talking, and Edwina's like, oh, he's so even tempered, and he's blah blah blah. I don't remember the rest of the lines, and like Daphne's like, really? Like, you can tell in her head she's probably thinking, do you really know my brother? Like, have you met Anthony? And it's so funny. And then you can see in Lady Danbury, like, looking at her kind of the same way. Like, clearly, child, you don't know this man as well as you think you do. And it's such a funny moment. And then later, once it's all out in the open and Edwina is just heartbroken and upset, there's a scene when they're all trying to fan the flames and calm everybody down, because Edwina walked on her own wedding, and which I will get to my favorite moment during the wedding episode, but she walks out on her own wedding and is just so like devastated and angry at her sister for lying to her, angry at Anthony for treating her this way. And there's a moment where they're trying to see a solution because the family's reputations have been ruined. So they're trying to resolve this problem because no one knows what the real reason about what happened. That why Edwina decided not to call off the wedding. And it's funny because Anthony and Kate are sitting right next to each other, not in two separate seats. They're sitting next to each other. And throughout the whole series, a handful of moments when the dog is Kate and Edwina have a cute little dog, and when they first get to Aubrey Hall, the dog is like, he's like, oh, you brought a dog, you brought your dog, and she's like, yes, Newton is an excellent judge of character. And the dog growls and barks at Anthony when he tries to pet it, and she's like, see? And the dog just does not like Anthony at first, growling at him, giving him the death glare that he's so good at himself. And so in this scene, the dog comes running in, trying to jump up on him, on his lap. And Kate, realizing this, is like, she tries to push the dog away, and then they end up making eye contact. Just similar to the eye contact they made at the wedding, which is what led Edwina to realize what was really going on between the two of them. And she's just like, could I have truly been that blind? And it's like, they're so obvious. And it's just so funny. And then Lady Danbury is basically, okay, separate sides, you on that side and you on that side. And it's so funny. And then there's another scene where they decide they want to show society that they're not fazed by their judgment. So they end up going to this local museum as a group, and they're walking, and right before they walk in, Kate walks right, but first Anthony, of course, buys them flowers, all the women, all three of the Sharma women, and of course, because Edwina is rightly angry at him, she does not accept her bouquet, her little tiny bouquet, and there's, Kate walks past them, and like I said, the hunting scene, he caught her scent. Kate's scent is totally into it. And they're walking by, and he just closes out and just inhales her scent as she passes. And then what's funny is that, and then Lady Danbury catches him, and is like, and it's again another priceless moment. And it's so funny as I make, which by the way, it's just funny that I'm making these gushing videos talking about and basically explaining my favorite moments. And then it's like, I was thinking how watching, there's some blooper videos or behind the scenes videos where they have a narrator, and when I'm watching them, I'm thinking, I don't care about the narrator. I don't want it to be explained to me. I can figure out what's going on in the scene. And then this is exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm basically explaining the jokes to you guys. Well, anyway, I just like to gush. I'm just gushing about this, and so there's just so many great moments there. So there's that moment, but you just feel so bad for Edwina. But here's my favorite Edwina moment, is when, after the wedding, she's found out and she's freaking out and she's angry at her sister because she already found out her sister lied about the whole thing with their grandparents, where the grandparents were going to give Edwina money. And her grandparents clearly treat Edwina like she's their little their little doll while just ignoring Kate. She's the other one, and because she's not, and this whole and then they find out that night because her Mary's mother can't shut up, and she's finally just is like basically spills the beans, and Mary of course did not know. Anthony and his mom did not. No one knew. No one except for Lady Danbury and Kate knew about what was going on, and they're just talking. So Edwina's upset about that, and she's willing to forgive her sister when she's not, because she's still going to get married to Anthony. And then, fortunately, at the wedding happens, and Kate, she's wearing these bangles from her mother as a gift from her own biological mother. And she's playing with them, and one of them falls off her wrist, and Anthony picks it up, and they look into each other's eye, and right in front of everybody, including Edwina. And that is the moment when she freaks out and realizes, oh my God, you two are in love with each other, and she runs on her wedding. But not before. There's another moment right before that where Anthony is like, he's not even looking at Edwina. He's supposed to be looking at her. And the whole time he's looking at Kate the whole time, trying not to look at her, but he can't help it. And there's a great scene where he's fantasizing about her being his bride. And it's just to the point, and it's just such a, you almost feel bad for Edwina in the moment, because he's clearly there's no feelings there for Edwina. And she wants a love-filled marriage. She doesn't just want married for economic reasons or convenient reasons. She wants love, and she takes off, and she calls off the wedding, and she's very angry at her sister and Anthony. And there's a scene right at the end, towards the end, not exactly at the end, but close to the end, where she calls them both, summons them both into the chapel, and is like, look, I don't want to marry for just to play a role. I don't want to marry just for convenience. I want to marry for love. I may not understand marriage. I may still be young and naive, but I know what I want, and I want love, and so I can't marry you. And the speech is great. It's something you just gotta watch. A scene that you just gotta watch what she says. And then she turns to her sister and is like, you have been trying to control my life and you're trying to give me the life you want. I don't want that. I'm not a child anymore. I want to live my life, the life I choose for myself, not the life you choose for me. Which is another reason that, like, Kate and Anthony are so perfect for each other, because they both try to control their siblings' lives. They both want to protect their siblings and do what's best for them. And they think they know what that is, but they don't. They are just constantly, making choices for them, and neither of their siblings do not want that. And that's what connects the pair of them together, is that they are so much alike in so many ways. And the pair just, and it's it's just such a great scene for Edwina, such a great arc. She really becomes a strong character. Now, unfortunately, one of the many reasons why I don't want to read the books, I feel, is one of the things is that they say that Edwina's character is not that great in the book. She's kind of more passive, and that, at least that's what like I said, I've just heard this stuff. I'm not sure if it's true or not, because I'm not going to read the books, but, but she really has this great arc and really comes into her own and has a stronger personality. And her reaction to the whole situation is she isn't just all okay with it. She's actually like, in the season, she's like, I'm not okay with this. I mean, I accept it, but I'm not okay with it, and I don't think what you guys put me through is fair. And she's still pretty angry, even later on. It's not until later when Kate falls off a horse and cracks her head that both her and Anthony realize Kate is the most important person in their life, and they don't want to lose her. And I think that's when Edwina forgives her. And that's also the moment when Anthony realizes that he wants to be with her, that he wants her as his wife, and he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. She is the most important thing to him, and he cannot lose her. And I think, which is ironic, because that's what the moment he was afraid of. And it's also, but it becomes the moment where he finally realized, I need her in my life. I need her to be mine, and I can't stand her not being in there, like something happening to her, like losing her forever. And like I said, oh my god, like Anthony could really. Too bad there was not therapy back then, because he could use therapy, and I think Penelope could use some therapy too. I think a lot of the characters, quite a few of those the characters could use some therapy, talking to someone about their problems. But it just, you know, so yes, so the ending is kind of even more tragic, you know. I think towards like the second to the last episode and the most of the last episodes is kind of sad, because you know Kate's life is on the line in this one, and towards the end of it, and like I said, it's the reason why Anthony and Edwina realize why Edwina forgives Kate. She still kind of asks her when Kate wakes up, and you know she's like, I forgive you, but I still have a few questions, and she even asks her some things about it and about what happened and her love for Anthony and stuff like that. And but yeah, so that's season 2. Me just basically talking about season 2, so I'll let you guys know that there's spoilers. I'll post in the description box that there's spoilers. I also, oh my god, I love the costumes, especially Queen Charlotte's and her wigs. Oh my god, that's just like, oh my god, like, if I was an expert on that, on that kind of stuff, then that would deserve its video. Would deserve a video where you just talk about the fashion of the show and Queen Charlotte and her wigs. And the chemistry between, Kate and Anthony, Jonathan Bailey, and Simone Ashley is just priceless. It's just great and so sizzling hot, and it's just awesome. And I love all the others are great. Claudia Justine plays Eloise is, very like such a charming character. And the same with Luke Noonan, I can't remember, Luke Thompson as the other two Bridgerton boys. There's so many great character moments and such brilliant performances. And I definitely can understand when people are upset about the guy who plays Simon. I always forget I cannot remember his name, the actor. Him leaving the show after season 1. I do think he should come back. And like I said, I think they could sort of get away with it in season 1. And in season 2 of him not being there, because they could make some flimsy excuses of why his character's not there. But but at the same time, there are moments where you would think he would be there, because he is the best friend of Anthony, and he's Daphne's husband. So it's like, there are a couple important moments where you would think he would be there. So I understand, and and I get that we should respect his wishes if he doesn't want to do it. He just wanted to do that one season. But it just isn't right that he's not in season 2. So yeah, there were a lot of moments where he should have been in season 2. And then there's his friend Will and his storyline. That's not the person he should have been with. And there's I can't remember where it was, but one of the videos I watched, I think I don't know if it was the comment or a video where they made a joke about it, where he kind of abandons Will too. He was going through a lot. He's trying to open his own establishment. And we have, but I feel like they need to bring him back at least in season 3, and maybe make some other excuse of why he wasn't in season 2. Even because I'm so obsessed, I even have a fan fiction in my head, because I feel like I've tried to write fan fiction again, it just didn't work. I just couldn't put pen to paper, metaphorically speaking. I tried, and I just didn't. My heart wasn't in it. It was only in it for like a second, and I was like, I can't, I have no, I just don't feel like doing it. I just don't feel it. And, but I did have one where Simon comes back, and the other characters kind of make fun of him being absent. He comes up with some flimsy excuse, and then, because I want him to meet Kate. I feel like he needs to meet Kate. Because this is his best friend's wife. And there is a scene in season 1 where he's like, Anthony, are you gonna ever get married? And Anthony kind of shrugs it off. It's like, like him, he doesn't plan to. He's, like I said, he's kind of a rake too. Especially in season 1. And, he doesn't, so I think it will be interesting for him I think he should meet Kate. You would think he would. And so hopefully he will come back in season 3. And there are videos I've seen that I haven't watched yet. I keep thinking about clicking on them, but then I get distracted and see another video that I want to watch. But I don't even know if they confirm it or not, that he's coming back in season 3. Because there are videos where it looks like, but it's really, it looks like they're confirming some spoilers, but they're not really legit. They're just fan theories and people saying, well, because of the books, it should be like this. Or, that because, it makes the most sense. But it doesn't officially confirm it. That this is going to be like, that this is how it's going to be like, this is who season 3 is going to be about. So it's kind of annoying, I mean, I appreciate those people making those videos, but it's like, you're not really confirming it. You're just saying, oh, this is a possibility, or, oh, this is probably how it's going to be, but we don't know for sure kind of videos. And it's like, I don't want that kind of stuff. I want to be sure. But because it's probably not going to come out until 2023, then it's probably going to be a long time before it's officially confirmed. I mean, maybe halfway through the year, like in the fall or something, in autumn time, or maybe winter time, they'll say something, but it's only the beginning. It's only like at the end, close to the end of April, before it's officially like, before. I mean, they might be filming, but yeah, which that was always drove me crazy. That's why I'm that kind of person who will still look at spoilers, especially for TV shows. We'll look them up because that's the only way to save myself next to watching a bunch of videos about my favorite characters. So anyway, hopefully this video isn't too long and that I'm not wasting my time talking on here. I'll probably have to go through all my other, trash and throw away some other, videos and stuff because this video might be too long, and sometimes if it's too long, it won't upload. So anyway, that's me gushing about Bridgerton, mostly talking about the characters and doing my own thoughts, commentary on the plot of each season. And like I said, I will post in that there's spoilers. It spoils both seasons because this is more of me discussing it and gushing about the show. If you are a fan and you watch the show, or even if you read the books, like I said, I'm not going to read the books, but, whether you read the books or not, if you love Bridgerton, please let me know. And, maybe there's something, well, I guess I don't really have any questions at the moment, anything people need to confirm or deny for me on the, about the show. But anyway, so I just wanted to do that because I'm obsessed with it right now, and I needed to let out the energy of my obsession with it before I end up sitting here all day, the rest of the day, watching videos about the show, because I need to focus on something else right now, or at least, I need to there's a book I need to finish right now. Unfortunately, it's not the best book. It's, in that my obsession with this show kind of ruins the book a little bit, because the book isn't that great. Like I said, it's not the Bridgerton books because I'm not reading them, but it's another, it's actually the, part of your world, Little Mermaid Twisted Tale, and if you read it, it's not, I don't know if you agree with me, but I personally, it's not the best. I don't hate it, and there are some funny moments, but that's about it. But I will talk more about that in either my wrap-up or something, I don't know, or maybe do maybe do a separate review, because I'm still kind of going back and forth with the wrap-ups, if I should do one or not, because I've been reviewing a lot of books, and this is a library book, so I won't have it to show you guys, so I might just do a separate review anyway. So, if you guys like this video and are Bridgerton fans, please give it a thumbs up, click subscribe if you haven't already, and click the bell notification below, just see when I post new videos. And, I hope you are enjoying your reading, or maybe if you're enjoying a good show. Would love to hear about that, because I love shows as much as books. And I hope you're staying happy, healthy, and safe. And I will talk to y'all later. All right, bye.